Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 22 of Pocket Edition. This is my fourth attempt at this introduction, so we're keeping it very simple, neat and tidy. Today, I'm joined by Mark. Hopefully you are awake. Mark, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I'm mostly conscious.
Mostly conscious after listening to me ramble through the intro and have 3 separate takes of something that isn't overly complicated that I do every single week.
Yeah, but knowing my track record.
This is very true. So Mark, what have you been up to this week? What have you been doing? What have you been playing?
I've still basically been sitting around playing Monster Hunter, even though I really shouldn't. But every time I sit in front of the screen now, I notice that my eyes are drawn to my Switch, and it's starting to take over my thoughts, thinking like I can take this everywhere, and maybe I should be playing Bayonetta. But I finished Bayonetta, but maybe I should play it again. And that's basically been me.
Yeah. All right. You got some issues, Mark?
Yep, I do. I'm aware of this.
JRPG issues. I have been playing. Actually, first, I am getting a Switch this week. I just wanted to throw that in there. So rejoice, count. I know I say that a lot, but it is happening. I have a 20-hour flight this week. Next week. Sorry, I've lost track of time. I'm getting a Switch for that flight. It's happening. But I have been playing another game that was also actually recommended by Count Fracula called Into the Breach, a game by the developers of FTL. It is awesome. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. It's kind of reminiscent of Advance Wars and Fire Emblem. It's like a 10x10 grid. It's just fantastic. Check it out. I think Count actually has a video up on his channel where he played like 3 hours of it straight. So if you want a thorough glimpse of that game, go check his channel out. But Mark, what are we talking about today? Let's get into it.
Well, given that it's been just over a year since the Switch launched, I was thinking that we'd take a look at what the Switch represents and how that affects the rest of gaming. So it's where it sits in this sort of like limbo between home console and handheld.
The no man land.
We'd look at what the future is for handheld and what the future is for home console. And if that sort of space and that rivalry that we've always been used to, all those separate audiences, if they'll coexist or clash or something will change, we don't know what'll go on. It's just, I'm in this crazy mode. The future's uncertain.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Anyway, so yeah, it's an interesting debate, and it's a debate that has been around for a long time. A lot of people have been, I can't talk again. A lot of people have been predicting the end of the console space since before this generation started. We've seen the rise of the handheld smartphone industry rise up over the course of the 360 PS3 generation. And, before we even got to this current generation, we thought, well, this is it. How is another home console going to compete with all of these smart devices? Have people's preferences changed? Do they just prefer handheld devices now? Is there room for the home console space? And to my pleasure, and I'm assuming a lot of gamers' pleasure, this generation is doing quite well for itself. I think it's tracking extremely well in comparison to the previous generation. But that question mark still remains. Will the traditional console space continue long into the future, the home console space? Or is Nintendo Switch, being a hybrid between the two, going to cause enough waves to maybe shake that up a little bit? What's going to happen? Will the smart device continue to run rampant and eventually just kill the Switch and the home console as young and up-and-coming gamers, their preferences and preferred way to play games change? Or, is the Switch going to shake it up to a point where we have a happy middle ground, or will the console continue on like it always has since day one? So Mark, why don't you take us in whatever direction you want from that?
So basically, my stance is I want the Switch to be the new handheld. It's a handheld that has home console capabilities, and therefore I need to sort of look at it as some sort of hybrid. But at the end of the day, my sort of stance that I always want to look at it as is it's a handheld device that I can do other things with.
Yeah.
I don't want it to eclipse something like the home console experience, because that's always its own sort of beast. And while the Switch can sort of get to that, and it is getting the home console style games, I want to constantly think that no matter what, I can pull it out of that dock and take it on a journey with me.
Yeah, and I think statistically, I remember seeing a few months ago that the preferred way for playing the device was in portable mode. I think it was like something 30% compared to 70% of people enjoyed playing it out and about or in its portable mode. So that goes to show that I think it is being identified as a portable device that does also have the capability to be played on the TV. You're more of a believer in that it's not necessarily going to kill one side or the other, but it's perhaps a blending and a middle ground that can coexist with the other two sides?
Yeah, I think it can definitely coexist with the sort of traditional home console experience we have, but I think that it's probably more likely that it will kill the current handheld thing. Maybe not immediately, but I think that the way it's going and the way that the 3DS and Vita, like the Vita's barely even there.
Oh, the
now,
Vita,
but,
yeah, that's gone.
But like the way that the 3DS is going, it's going to sort of peter out because it's hit its high points. It's had amazing high points, but it's just the Switch is up and coming, and I don't want the 3DS to be overshadowed when it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, I think the 3DS defied I think the industry trends for a while. It kind of seemed to defy the laws of the industry. You know, they dropped this handheld, and from day one, it had pretty bad sales. But to Nintendo's credit, they brought it back with price cuts, games galore, found a way to exist in the kind of smartphone mobile market when, we were at this point in time when we were starting to question, one, is there room for a dedicated portable, in comparison to the smartphone device market? And two, we were starting to question whether that market and preferred way to play games and the rise of that industry was going to impact the home console space. So to Nintendo's credit, the 3DS did astronomically well. And I think now, when you look at the Nintendo Switch, they've found a way to find new ground again, where I think it's going to continue to defy what analysts might have believed before it launched in regards to how well it would do in this kind of space. Is there any room left in that space for some kind of portable? And I think, it's credit to Nintendo again when you look at the Switch. I believe last time I checked, its sales were on track to eclipse the Wii's year one sales. It's already eclipsed the Wii U's bloody lifetime sales. It goes to show that there is absolutely room in the space that the Switch is currently occupying.
For the 3DS and all it's done, I want the Switch to sort of double that and more. Because this generation is looking for innovation. Because while PlayStation 4 and Xbox One look incredible and have the high specs and whatnot, they're more of what we were accustomed to. They didn't really freak us out or like go, whoa, that shouldn't work or that couldn't work or we didn't think and wow, it works, sort of thing, like the Wii. Whereas like motion controls, no way. And the DS was like touchscreens, that's insane. Sort of thing. The Switch is that sort of like bridging gap thing.
Yeah.
But then like we've got Nintendo Labo, which is that sort of we're going to make you think that games can be played completely differently to what you're used to on the go because you can shove this screen in your visor and play as a mech and whatnot. So it wants to innovate by being this portable thing that you can't clearly define.
That's the space it's existing in, yeah.
And that's what surprises people because they wanted innovation, but they didn't expect it like this. But you shouldn't expect innovation, sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Its price point is pretty attractive as well, and you're getting experiences from both sides of the fence again that can be played on a TV or they're portable. So it's capturing both sides of the fence at an attractive price point. But to kind of, again, teeter back to the smartphone side of the fence, can you see that side, dedicated portable device smartphone side, ever taking away or crippling the space that Nintendo like to occupy with either dedicated handhelds or the Nintendo Switch?
I think it's going to be... I've sort of sounded like I think that handheld is just going to stop and just drop.
Stop, drop, roll.
What I think it's more going to be, I think it's more going to be this gradual shift where you see that like, oh yeah, we can't make games that well on this console anymore, or it's not the same experience. That experience will still be there, and like the 3DS and smartphone and whatnot, all these handhelds are perfect for indie games, homegrown gaming and stuff like that. But it's just going to reach a point where it's like, oh yeah, we've had a good run. And it's time to move on to the next thing, which is probably going to be the Switch, or if someone else can innovate to that level or create some new experience that's somehow separate again.
Yeah, I think I agree. I can see the Switch being, like this middle ground between both sides of the fence. I think I can see that space probably being expanded upon and really entrenching itself in as being kind of another pillar. You've got dedicated being smartphones, you've got the dedicated home console, and then you've got the middle ground, which Nintendo will occupy with the Switch. And I think they're gonna blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
I think this is a very long-term platform, the Switch, and an idea. I think it's an idea that they can keep pushing with for a very long time. So it's very interesting. But what about the other side? What about the home console space? Do we think, after everything we've seen and all the doomsday predictions about this generation just going belly up, with the success of the Switch being very close to the portable kind of smartphone space, considering its success, do you think the home console space, do you think there's an argument to be had about that space being affected by the rise of the smartphone and now the Switch? Are much beloved traditional home console in danger, do you think, in any near future scenario or prediction?
Like, home consoles will always have a place. That's always been my thing. But I think that the audience is going to shrink because this current gaming climate want games that you can sort of play on the go or play in short bursts. And home console has constantly sort of drifted away from short bursts.
Yep.
Always the sit down and play for long sessions. Handheld devices have always had even if it is a long game, you can pause it, put it in sleep mode, pick it up later.
And I actually fall into that category now. I think I used to be, in my early teens and early 20s, I would sit, on end for hours and hours and hours and pump hours and hours and hours into whether it be the latest shooter or RPG, put endless amounts of weekends into whatever was the hot thing at the time. But now, I don't have that much time anymore, but even if I did, I find myself unable to sit down and put that much time into something. Maybe my attention span has just gone to shit. Personally, I feel like I'm a very productive person. I like to be doing something productive all the time, and if I sit down and watch too much Netflix or watch too many movies or play too many games, I feel like I'm wasting something. Sounds ridiculous. That's my inner quirk and kink. But, like you said, the kind of what people want, or what we think people want, or it appears to be, is that people do want these kind of pick up and put down quick burst experiences. Now, whether us as gamers are changing, I certainly have, or maybe it's younger generations coming through which have been risen by smart devices which have those experiences like very prevalently across the board, whether it be Candy Crush or Plants vs. Zombies, bite-size kind of games, or the 3DS. That's another perfect example, like Fire Emblem, pick up, put down experiences where you get short bursts of satisfaction and gameplay. That's what I want. So for me, the Switch is extremely appealing. And I think you might be onto something with maybe the home console space, maybe taking not necessarily a backseat, but having to at least maybe adapt as best they can to the change, to the change that we, in our opinions, think is occurring.
It's a matter of that, like, they can continue to a certain extent, both handheld and home console, in the way that they are, but both need to be aware that there will be this sort of a gradual change in both the audience and style of play. And so, like, the audience want quick, at least pause the game. Like, there have been a few times when it's like you can't commit an hour, even though you want to commit an hour. But if you can commit 2 half-hour breaks throughout a day, you might be like, okay, so if I can save state here, or if I can pause it and put it in sleep here, I know I'll be able to pick up that sort of bit later.
Do you find you have changed over the course of time? If you have, what do you attribute that to?
I started out as a very impatient gamer, and like years ago, I started out very impatient. Then at some point, I became very patient for a lot of games. That's when I truly discovered JRPGs. I became very patient. But now I'm sort of like, if it doesn't grip me or if it can't keep me entertained, unfortunately, I might need to shelve it until I have a long period of time. But then I'll see something quick that I can just play in little bursts and things like that, and that'll end up getting my attention without me even realizing it. Like, I'll shove 8 hours into like mobile Fate Grand Auto or Fire Emblem or something like that.
So just back to what we said previously about there being a rise in the want and change in the way we play our games. being, maybe preferring shorter pick up and put down experiences. What do you put that down to in terms of, our opinion? That's what our opinion is. We think it's happening. What do you attribute that change to? Do you think it is the smartphone space influencing kind of play habits?
I think smartphone probably did a fair share of that, because how long ago was smartphones big? Like Angry Birds originally.
Jeez.
That was like the pick up and play. Oh, you play it on the toilet or you play it on the go. I remember there was a massive ad campaign about you can play that anywhere, because that was the first gigantic smartphone app. But that sort of introduced you to the quick bites of games, going every now and again, and that sort of just
Mark, this is radio. They can't hear you clicking or see you clicking.
They can hear what? They can't hear me click. I can click. They can hear it. I saw my audio wave go up. That's a click.
No, I just flubbed it again, like the intro. I'm gonna flub us out as well.
Why? All right. Angry Birds was the first sort of major thing that was quick little bites. Play for 2 minutes, finish a level, stop, go do whatever you were going to do, stop, start again, play another level. Even though we might not have realized it then, that introduced us to the stop-start gameplay of smartphones, of the current handheld trends. And we probably just became, not numb to it, but used to it. And now that sort of digs into our own personalities without us realizing it.
Yeah, it kind of digs into our psyche and just, it really appeals to our kind of, I am an adult and I don't have time. So, yeah. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Let us know what you think down below in the comments. What kind of gamer are you? Do you prefer the kind of quick pick up and put down experiences? Or are you a diehard traditionalist? Give us the JRPGs, all the RPGs, the Witches of the world. Let us know where you fit down below, and let us know what you think of the Switch and the two sides of the fences. Are any of these areas of the gaming industry, being the home console, the middle ground being the Switch, and the dedicated smartphone space, are any of them in danger of becoming irrelevant or taking an extreme backseat? Let us know what you think down below. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Twitch, head on over to our YouTube channel where you'll find all of the content on demand for your viewing pleasure. This has been episode 22, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Dandy. What a dandy episode.